Hi, and welcome to today's talk in the Self-Love and Self-Care Summit. We have Kelly Flagg with us here today to talk about how to make nutritional self-care super simple for busy women. Kelly's a lifestyle coach and a lifelong lover of all things health and wellness. She helps stressed out women become their best future selves. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandy. I'm excited to be here today.
Always love talking to you about these topics. You have such a wealth of knowledge.
There's a little in there.
This is a self-love and self-care summit, and it's for women. And the reason for that is I've found, and I believe you found too, that women really struggle when it comes to self-love and self-care. So what's your take on that? Why do you think it is that women especially struggle with this?
Oh, what a great question and a great way to start. I honestly think it is because we, for really forever, right, have been caretakers of others. And depending on what culture you look at, women have even been caretakers of communities, caretakers of the entire village. We've just always been caretakers of others. And so I think it is really challenging sometimes to slow down and like flip the mirror the other way and realize like we also need to be taken care of. We also need to take care of ourselves. It's a very different thought process to, as they say on the airplane, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first.
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, we need to, and that's what this is all about. We need to start taking care of ourselves. What happens when we don't?
Oh, wow. Great story. I'll actually just tell you what happened to me when I didn't, because I think we probably all have had that point in our lives. And if we haven't yet, we probably will in the future, where you realize that you've given and given and given and given and not cared for yourself. And, Sandy, I'm sure somewhere in this summit, there's been a conversation about our tendencies to do that, right? But our bodies break down, our mental health breaks down, our physical health breaks down. And then when that happens, everything breaks down, right? If our whole life is built on caring for others, we can't do that if we don't take care of ourselves. I heard it said very recently, I heard somebody say that you should pour from the saucer, not from your cup. Like that you should pour from what overflows from filling your own cup. And I was like, oh, I really like that.
I like that too. That's a good visual. I appreciate that. Like,
yeah, but
just a new way of looking at it.
Yeah. And for me, just personally, like the spot in my life that really stands out to me was, I'm a recovering people pleaser. I won't say I'm a recovering overachiever. That probably will never change. But I'm definitely a recovering people pleaser. And that means that for years and years and years, I spent a lot of time running around trying to make sure that, my spouse or partner was happy, my boss was happy, my kid was happy, my car was clean, my house was clean, my food was prepared on time for dinner, that I was at the gym every day. Like even the healthful things in life when you are in that place can be kind of negative, right? And for me, my health broke down. For me, I sustained an injury that then, like, when you're already living right to the edge of the page and trying to take care of everybody else, and then a piece of your own health is failing, it's like you can't do it all. You cannot do it all. And I really had to take a huge step back and say, wow, like I actually need help, and I need to love myself first, and I need to feed myself first, and I need to take care of myself first. And I think that is pretty common amongst women of, the age that we have, families and careers and all of the things that we're trying to balance.
Yeah. This balance, we get this warped perception of what balance really is, that, each area of our life is in perfect harmony with each other at all times.
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's give and take. And I think part of the issue here is when we see, for example, I've been working hard, putting this whole summit together, and the laundry has piled up. I'm not failing at home because the laundry piled up. It's just right now, this is the direction that the balance is skewed in. And it's a conscious decision. It's when we start saying, oh, I'm a failure of a housekeeper. Mm-hmm. because my dining room table is right now holding on all of the baskets of clean laundry instead of being perfectly clear so that we can have one of those beautiful family dinners at it, which is ideal, right? And we will have that. But right now, I make the conscious decision that this is where my effort is going, and that's okay.
Yes, it is okay.
So your expertise tends to float around when it comes to our physical care too, and our physical self-love, and when it comes to nutrition. So talk to us about some of these ideas around making nutritional self-care easy.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to nutrition is that so often people don't seek nutritional advice or nutritional counsel unless it's related to weight loss, right? So we're already addressing nutrition from a place of need versus choice, right? Like, I need to fit into these jeans, or I'm not happy with the way my body looks, or I'm not happy with something. So we're already addressing food from a place of self-judgment. I am going to ask everybody who's listening to discard that for a moment, maybe for this entire talk, right? It's a reality that our body needs good food. It is a reality that when we choose to eat processed food or, highly saturated fat content food, to be clear, that our body suffers for that when we eat highly processed sugar, if we eat a lot of flour, if we're drinking soda, or all of these, lots of chemicals, it's proven fact our body suffers for that. And I just want, for a minute, if anyone was thinking that this was related to weight and weight loss, I just want to remove that from the equation for today, because this is about loving yourself. Yes, it is about change and it is about transformation, but it's about change from a place of love, not change from a place of self-loathing. So I think that's probably like the most important thing as we move forward.
I'm over here like trying not to applaud to interrupt.
Well, we've all been there, right? We've all been there. And I don't want to discount the importance of that. Like, I know who has not been wearing yoga pants for the last year? If you're watching this when we record it, real clothes have not necessarily been a thing. So if you go to button your pants and they don't fit, this little conversation happens in your head, and it's very rarely a kind one. And so the first thing I always try to help people with is the idea that food and nutrition it starts with the health of your mind, right? It starts with your attitude about food and nutrition. And so the health of your mind and the health of your body are really intertwined and can very significantly affect each other. So I always like to start to think about, like, what is the fuel our body needs, and how do we accomplish that? And how do we love ourselves by feeding our body good, healthy food instead of hating on ourselves and restricting things from a place of negativity? Very different mindset, very different process.
That was a new concept to me, not even that long ago, maybe a couple of years ago. The idea of, you've been thinking about like a weight loss journey of, I always thought, oh, I hate my body the way it is now, and I hate this, extra squishy stuff on it. And that should be my motivation to lose weight, to get healthier, to get the body that I want. But that feels crappy. Oh, I hate this thing that's actually been carrying me through my life and supporting me and keeping me alive. But it was a foreign concept to me to even think about the idea of, oh, I can love and appreciate, this. I mean, it doesn't mean I love the squishiness. It doesn't mean that I'm like, yay, I'm so in love with this extra layer, but I don't have to hate it.
No, you don't. And, I want you to think about it for a minute, Sandy. Like, think about your body. I want you to think about the feeling when you get a brand new car. If you've ever had a brand new car, maybe it was just new to you, but it was clean, right? Or even if you've never had a new car, if you've just had your car detailed, that feeling where you're like so excited about how good it feels, right? Your body is your only vehicle for your entire life, your entire life. And I think about that and I think we don't go willy-nilly pouring orange juice in our gas tank. We don't go and drive our car thousands and thousands and thousands of miles without any maintenance. Well, most people don't. And if we do, it breaks down and our body is really no different. And so I always say to people, like, if you really thought about the fact that your body, you have one body and it has to last you, we'll just say 100-ish years for simple math, right? We're going to take care of it differently. I don't know about you, but if I had one car that had to last me 100 years, I would probably wash it. I would probably wax it. I would probably put the right gas in it. I would probably change the oil regularly. Like, I would do all the things. I would do all the things. And so that's how I like people to think about their body. You need to love your body. It is your vehicle.
I've never heard it put that way, but wow. What a profound like visualization. Like, you don't expect to have a car for the entire length of your life. And so you're right. You do have a little bit of a disposable mindset when it comes to that maintenance sometimes. And if you were to, I'm already thinking about treating my car a little bit better, to be honest, but also, but I love that. It's like, no, the regular maintenance is it's not selfish. It's not indulgent. And it's not, for certain kinds of people.
No, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. And I think that's the other thing is let's talk about food. Like, let's get right into like, what is this all about? So we have food that has no label, right? What is the food that has no label? Your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, your farm-fed, grass-fed beef, farm raised poultry. Like, these are things that have no label. They are like straight up food. Then we have all of the boxes of stuff in the grocery store. And I think one of the things we have to acknowledge is that some of the food-like substances that we have come to love the taste of are actually addictive recreational drugs. I want you to think about that for a minute. Like, actually, to your brain, like physically to your body, processed sugar and recreational drugs light up the exact same dopamine receptors in your brain. And so many of us would never choose to do hard drugs, but we have no problem consuming an entire box of Oreos. But it's the same thing. And it's the same to our body, and it has the same harmful effect on our health. So that's the first thing I always want people to understand, is just not to judge yourself by it. So going back to that whole self-love concept, not to create a hateful thought around it, but more to have an observation of
the self-awareness.
Just a self-awareness of how have I been feeding my body. And I'll give you guys an example of this. I'm a big one on personal example, and I'm like super open about my own life and my own lifestyle. But very recently, like, I changed living situations, and I have not been a milk consumer for years. For years, I do not consume dairy. And for like 3 or 4 days, my roommate was making my smoothies in the morning. And then I was noticing that I was starting to get congested, and I had kind of a headache, and I was constantly clearing my throat. And of course I was like, oh my God, am I getting COVID? Like, what's happening to me? And I looked in the refrigerator one day and I was like, I think she's making my smoothie out of the same thing she's making her own smoothie out of. And I was like, are you using milk and yogurt in my smoothie? And she was like, yeah, and of course, you want to be, I'm like, really, thank you for helping me out. But like, that's actually making me sick. And it was just an observation, right? I'm not gonna say milk is bad. I'm just saying for me and for my body, it's not a fuel my body likes. It's not a fuel that resonates very well with my body. Gluten and dairy are actually two of the biggest things that we consume that people have negative health reactions to. And I was literally within a matter of days, completely reversed those symptoms and the way my body was feeling. It was like my body, if we go back to the car analogy, my body just threw up a little engine light, like, hey, something's not right. Yeah. You're not taking care of me the way I want you to.
So it's this bringing this non-judgmental observation to what's going on and what you're eating and maybe even why you're eating it. So I loved your analogy on the drugs and, sugar and those types of things, just as a metaphor to illustrate really that, they're addictive and they're not that great for you. But I mean, if you eat that box of cookies, it's not, that metaphor isn't to make you judge yourself. Oh my God, I'm basically a crackhead if I eat this box of cookies. But I love that your recent story here is just how to illustrate, okay, how does that make me feel when I eat this box of cookies? Or how did it make me feel before I ate it that drove me to eat that box of cookies?
Oh, I'm
not to like, oh my God, I have to change everything. But
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things I often have people journal about, and so if anybody's journaling as part of this summit, this will be a great journal prompt for you, which is when you think about when you crave sugar. Let's just use sugar as the example. Think of when you crave sugar. For me, it's sugar and caffeine. Those are the two things. I want you to think about what feeling you are actually trying to create by consuming those things. And then think about, one, have you actually created that feeling? Because most of the time the answer is no. And secondarily, what other way could you create that feeling? Because we can't discount the fact that we have deep-seated beliefs around food, the same way that we do about self-love and self-care, right? Depending on where we grew up and how we grew up and what our family's ideas were around food. But like for me, I'll again use myself as an example. Whenever I want a snack at night, it is actually around comfort. It's not that I'm hungry. It's not that I need to eat something. It's that it reminds me of my childhood. And so guess what? A cup of decaffeinated tea, a tiny little square of 80% dark chocolate, and a blanket does exactly the same thing. Yeah. Right? Like,
exactly.
And actually, I probably feel better.
because we love examples. I'll give you an example. You just gave us a recent one. And for me, like I said, I've been working a ton lately, putting this whole event together. And what I started noticing, again, non-judgmental self-awareness, is that I'm staying up later. And so I've been more tired. And I noticed that I have been eating more sugar. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, I've been smoking a little bit of pot, which I had gone a long break of like not having it, for months and months and months, a couple of years. And here's the verdict is not only COVID, being stuck in the house a lot more. I work from home. My husband works from home. The baby's only in daycare 3 days a week. I'm not getting hardly any alone time. Yeah. So when everybody's in bed, I stay up a little later so I can have more alone time. So that's something I recognize I need. That's the need. And I'm fulfilling it by staying up later, which is making me more tired making me need more alone time, and eating more sugar. I did the exact same, doing that journal prompt that Kelly just recommended is really big. I may not necessarily journal, but I use it as a thought prompt. And I realized I'm not having, like, I love what I'm doing. This is fun to me, but I'm not having play fun. Like, I'm not having any of that excitement. And so I'm reaching for something that's going to feel a little bit more exciting, and cookies are exciting to me. Right. And because of the less sleep and the more sugar, you get the physiological sensations of anxiety in the body. Right. And that's what the smoking is helping to subside. Yeah. And so bringing that mindful awareness, doing that tool that she just described, which is super simple, is just a way of saying, okay, well, here's what's really going on. And then finding the little ways to bring in that balance. Is that it?
You nailed it.
Am I hitting the nail? Okay.
I mean, you nailed it. Let's use sleep as an example, because I think a lot of people right now struggle with sleep, right? A lot of people are reporting. I read an article, and I don't remember what the percentage is, but there's been a huge increase in the number of people seeking sleep medication assistance since COVID. Well, let's think about this. We're stressed, right? For any number of reasons. We are living, working, doing all things in one tiny little space with our spouses, our children are home. The world has been unpredictable. Kids are at school, then they're not at school, like all the things. I don't even have to go into them. That's like not even half of them. So we're experiencing stress. A lot of people are choosing to numb that stress with alcohol, right? So we are attempting to support our sleep with alcohol. And then because we're, like you said, probably up a little too late, and because alcohol doesn't actually help you stay asleep, it helps you fall asleep, but it actually is proven to cause you to wake in the night and sleep less restfully. Then we're going to wake up in the morning, and we're probably also going to self-medicate with caffeine. So now you have this tug of war happening in your body between caffeine and alcohol and stress and anxiety. Like, let's just talk about a different scenario for a minute. What if instead we fed our body what it needs for energy, which is fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, omega-3 fatty acids, and that we did, I don't know, a handful of deep breathing exercises to moderate some of that stress, or any number of other techniques that Sandy could teach you. And then what if instead of self-medicating with alcohol, we did 20 minutes of yoga before we tried to go to bed, right? Like, now those are not necessarily all food suggestions, but again, it comes back to, what if instead of trying to cover up what our body was trying to tell us, we listened to our body and we loved it for telling us that. One of my favorite things to say, and my son always laughs at me, is I'm always like, oh, that's a little bit of information.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just information.
It gets you into that objective.
Yeah.
I'm a scientist of my own body, just like watching and observing, as opposed to, well, that's wrong. Oh, right. I screwed up again. Or yeah.
That's information. I can tell you, if I drink more than a cup of coffee a day, I get very emotional. And in many situations, people wouldn't even notice that was happening to them until it was at a point where they were maybe seeking medication or medical help for it. And for me, I'm just like, oh, how much have I been drinking coffee lately? And almost always I'm like, oh, it's just information. And it's the same with our body. And so one of the things I often recommend people do, if they're like, one of the things that I had talked to you about with this conversation was helping people not feel so stressed out about food. Because I think people get wound and confused. There's so much information. I mean, you could walk into the diet section of the bookstore, and I don't even know how many hundreds of books there are there. It's so confusing. Carbs are good. Carbs are bad. Fat is good. Fat is bad. Protein's good. Steak is bad. Eggs are good. No, eggs give you high cholesterol. Like, oh my goodness. People, it's really, really simple. Our body needs a combination of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats from natural food sources, and our body does the rest of the work. And if we can manage our intake of processed foods, and we can stick to foods that are fairly natural, you're going to feel better. I mean, it really is that simple. I mean, obviously there's nuances based on each person's individual physical situation, but I feel like that's empowering personally. I feel like when I say that to people, like it's empowering. Like you don't have to read all the books. You don't have to count all the calories. You don't have to percentage all of the macros. You really don't. You don't. Unless you are an elite athlete and you are really trying to manage nutrition to a T for some physical reason, the average person does not need to worry about that.
And I like how you said manage your processed foods, not cut out your processed foods, but manage it, because we're, humans.
Yeah.
With cravings and accessibility to processed foods, which are delicious.
Well, let's just have a conversation, right? Let's have a conversation about that. So let's say your thing, Sandy, and I don't even know, I'm making stuff up, but let's say your thing is that you love to have a cookie every once in a while.
Yeah, you're not off. You're not
I
far.
know, because we've eaten lunch together before. But anyway, I didn't want to call you out. But like, let's just say your thing's a cookie. It's no big deal. But here's what I would say about that. If that's the thing you really love, really, really, really love, do not go buy a cheap bag of processed cookies at the gas station because you're exhausted and tired and stressed. Instead, say what I really love is a good cookie from XYZ bakery down the corner, and make a thing of it. Like, make it the thing you do, that you've chosen to do, that is an experience for you to do, and make it special, and enjoy the cookie. And then choose less sugar in your next meal.
No, I love that. And I love the idea of making these indulgent things like truly an indulgent experience. Like we get so busy, we eat so mindlessly. And that's when you reach down for that another chip and the bag is empty because you're being mindless about it. You go for another bite and it's gone. Or you don't feel satisfied when you're done and you just want more. I mean, that's partially probably what you ate, but also that mindless experience when you're eating. Yeah. If you think of like, the last meal your grandmother made you, or, a really expensive meal that it costs a lot of money and it's so amazing. You eat that with this indulgent, mindful mindset. Like you are enjoying every single morsel that touches your mouth and feeling it going to. And if you bring that same attitude to one of these, you want a cookie, eat the damn cookie. But if you do it from that perspective of this is my treat, you're going to enjoy it a million times more. I haven't done the science on that million number, but I think it's pretty close.
Right. It's pretty close. But here's the thing. You can have that same indulgent experience with a salad. It might sound like an unusual thing to most people, but if you really think about the flavors and the textures and the things, the combinations that you can put in a bowl, you can have that same indulgent experience with food that's good for your body. And it's funny, my son's 11 and I cook every night that he's with me. Maybe I miss one a week when we're at basketball, but I tend to cook every night that he's with me, and not complicated meals. So if you don't like to cook, don't write me off. But he even will say, he's like, you make the best food. Sometimes it's just a salad. Sometimes it's just a bowl of uber fresh lettuce with like a pepper that I got at the farmer's market and like very fresh organic local chicken that I've cooked up with some spices. Like it could legitimately be that simple. But again, when you're savoring what you're putting in your body, as opposed to feeling shameful about it and eating a bag of potato chips in the closet or in the car, it's a different experience. It's a different experience altogether.
It's so funny how it just amazes me. Even the journey I've been on, it still constantly amazes me how a different thought changes your whole reality.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I recently did a 10-day stint where I was really struggling myself. This is a reality. I'm human, but I had a lot of change and a lot of like sort of discombobulation. And I was really struggling myself to break an addictive food cycle. And I decided that for a week, I was going to do 3 whole food smoothies a day. And so when I say that, I mean lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, lots of nutrition, like not a cleanse where you're not getting your calories, but that literally I was just going to pack my blender full of apples and bananas and oranges and berries and greens and protein and all of the things for a week. I have never felt so good in my entire life as at the end of that 7 days, where I was like, I could probably eat like this forever. And what that did for me, I mean, I teach this, I've been teaching this for 20 years, but the feeling of like clarity, that's one of the big ones for me, right? I don't know how many people listening are entrepreneurs or, you know, business people, but like to be able to wake up with focus and clarity without a cup of coffee or two, and the energy to do all of the things that you need to do during the day, and the emotional stability that comes from not feeling crappy about food. All of those things. Amazing. Amazing.
It's got a trickle down effect.
It does. It does. And I'm not saying that that's the right solution for everybody. It was a solution for me. I happened to be in a kitchen transition. So it was a better choice than pizza.
Yeah. So what do you say to the woman who says, well, that sounds nice, but it also sounds really expensive. Like that doesn't sound sustainable or affordable to me.
It's actually proven. And there's actually a section about it in Dr. Mark Hyman's new book, The Pagan Diet, where he combines paleo and vegan to talk about how you can use food as medicine. But I think the number he gave was that it was approximately, I could be wrong about this, I could be misquoting it, but it was like, I want to say he said it was like $4 a week more expensive to eat organic food than not, because we stop wasting money on the processed food, right? Processed food is expensive. And so when we're actually buying fruits, vegetables, meat, and we're sticking with the healthy fats and the really the farm raised food, that it actually is not more expensive. It requires a little bit more thought at the beginning, but it does not require more money.
So that's less than $300 a week. Like even if you're, you know, misquoting and it's a little bit higher, that's still, if you think of a few hundred extra dollars a year,
yeah,
as opposed to all of the things you spend money on because of feeling like crap because you eat like crap.
One visit to urgent care is more than your change in your food cost. And I guarantee you that when your body is functioning at its best and your immune system is working and you've taken care of your body, it's going to take care of you in return. I think at the end of the day, it's actually less expensive. And someone actually said at one point that if you don't invest in your health now, that you'll be forced to invest in repairing your health later. And so I think there's also that sort of future return on investment where we don't have to age poorly, that we are chronologically going to get older, but we don't have to age poorly, and, you know, make a little bit of investment now to save that money later.
Right. And not from the mindset of, I hate everything I've done and I hate the way I am now, but I can love and appreciate myself and make conscious decisions to get step by step closer.
I think that I thank you for saying that, because I really think that's so important, that if you are listening to this and you have not cared for your body before now, maybe, maybe this is just new information for you, because a lot of people just haven't been raised or exposed to this way of thinking about food. That's okay. Every day you have the opportunity to choose to make a different choice, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Yeah, I love that. And just stepping into that, I can actually love myself, even though I'd prefer to be 10 pounds lighter, and I can still work towards that. But stepping into that mindset, I know that's a challenge. So for the woman who's watching this, who's still stuck, like believing that voice that she hears that you're fat, you're never going to lose weight, or you're just not good enough, what's your best advice to leave her with?
Right. What if you entered this journey for the idea of, let's think of your body like it's a fire, right? And that when we're starting a fire, we have to nurture that little tiny flame. If you've ever watched somebody just get the little tiny spark, and you've got to nurture that before it becomes an actual fire. I always tell people, like, just nurture the little flame. Just nurture the little flame. And if you keep doing that over time, if you have weight to lose, you will lose it. Your body will adjust. It will self-adjust over time. But you can't throw wet logs on a wet fire. You got to nurture that tiny little flame until it gets hot.
Love your metaphors.
So many of them, so many.
So you have a really awesome free gift to share with everybody, your mini self-love kit. And
Yes.
tell us about this.
Yeah. So I also believe, as we start to learn about food and nutrition, that there are times that, one of my jokes is a breakfast. Who's going to eat a breakfast salad? I put mine in a blender, but most people are not going to eat a salad for breakfast. So I put together a little kit of self-love support, I like to call it, where we can nurture our nutritional needs. So it includes a vegan protein supplement that is made with green peas, cranberries, brown rice, all good, fresh, healthy stuff, B vitamin supplement, and skincare, premium Swiss skincare, so that you can just give yourself a little spa day. You don't even have to go anywhere. Just give yourself a little spa day. And that is also combined with, if people want, a 30-minute call to excavate their own beliefs around food and start to chart a course for themselves. I think knowing the first couple of steps is always the most important. And my mission is to help everyone feel confident in doing that, whether they choose to or not. I want people to know what those first steps are for themselves. So that is my freebie.
I love it. I love it. And the link to connect with Kelly is going to be right below this video. And, book a call, just call her, just talk to her. You're going to love it. And there's no strings attached or anything with her free kit. I mean, honestly, she sent me some of these free samples and I freaking loved them. I was telling her as soon as we jumped on the call. So connect with her. Absolutely. All her links are right down below this video. Kelly, it's always a pleasure hearing your wisdom and your great metaphors. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Bye, everybody.